Well, and what's so great is, and you hit on this in terms of those connections and relationships. I think about how already organically the sanctuary has helped to drive partnership within and among our communities over the course of the last 3 years, just while we've been trying to develop the proposal and get
Right.
the proposal for the sanctuary into the pipeline.
Mhm.
And locally, I think about a business like Portico Divers, again, choosing to operate in Port Washington because the sanctuary is very important, obviously, relative to what they're trying to accomplish out in the community. But I think about how Port Washington's Saukville School District has connected with Concordia University in Mequon, how we as a city have created a relationship with Concordia University in Mequon, how Concordia looks at this as an opportunity now to look to Alpena and has
Right.
had conversations with Alpena and the community college there relative to a marine tech program or a marine biology program, things that they're not really doing right now. So
Mhm.
all of this, when you think about the collective impact, it isn't just one thing. Like you said, it isn't just about diving. It is
No.
the collective impact in terms of the sanctuary and what it's going to do for, I think, not only all of our communities, but the state of Wisconsin. And I think for you to have experienced that personally over and with the Thunder Bay Sanctuary has got to be really powerful.
It's what you're all about in reality. What I got into it for was just to protect my rights as a diver. What I got into is really, something that I think will make our area better for a quality of life.
Sure.
Where we're now attracting professionals that actually stay. They used to come and say, boy, this is cool. This is out in the woods kind of place, and this is rural. And their wives would say, wait a minute, I can't live like this.
Right.
And they'd be off.
Right.
We just couldn't hold those kinds of professional people. Now they come, and we've got things for them.
Right.
And it's just a quality of life kind of thing. We're still rural, but we still have connections that make us close to civilization.
So yeah, let's talk about that for a second if we can, in terms
Mhm.
of what you've seen now. The sanctuary's been, Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, of course, was designated back, in 2001?
1 or 2, something.
And then went through a major expansion, which obviously I know you were a strong
Mhm.
advocate for and obviously
Right.
helped lead forward among many other stakeholders there. What have you now started to really see and observe economically within the community from a branding perspective? I've been to Alpena. You have a beautiful community as well.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the first thing that struck me was when I walked into the airport, seeing branding on the walls within the
Exactly.
airport about how much pride there was that this
Mhm.
was the Great Lakes National Marine Sanctuary.
Exactly.
And that carried through with every conversation I had in Alpena, and obviously, there's been a strong embrace within the community. But that impact now
Mhm.
has flowed back to the community as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And things like that actually kind of snowball. You like for the sanctuaries, this past week they had a group of scientific people there all week. They did some diving, but 30 plus professionals come into the community. They all need housing. They all need whatever. Some of them bring their wives and or families
Sure.
along, and you have that kind of obvious thing. But then what happens is there's things out there that need to sustain that, or that come about because of that. That extra couple of dollars then gets recirculated in that community.
Absolutely.
And it just keeps on just slowly growing. And I think you want slow growth. You don't want something that hasn't been thought out that just gets rubber stamped into your society. We have gradually over the years seen Alpena empty buildings get gradually filled with quality businesses, and a downtown area now that's been kind of renovated, that needed it anyway, but now there's a community pride in it and people are backing it, and they want that kind of thing to clean up their waterfront and make it better and much more attractive. Doing is the same kind of thing that Alpena has done with their branding program. Now we're looking at that and saying, okay, if we've got to fix this road, let's
Right.
do it the way these people are saying to do it.
Right.
And let's have it attractive in the way that it can be, But we have some major properties have sold, some lakefront has sold that hadn't sold in a long time, and people are waiting to do things with it.
Well, when you're talking about the impact that the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary has had in terms of bringing about 100,000 folks every year, obviously, to that community,
Right.
One of the things we talk about here is the interconnectedness of our communities. That economic impact isn't within one community. To your point, and I'm so glad you brought up Rogerson, that the reality is that impact obviously is dynamic. And it's residual and indirect, and it kind of flows between communities. And here in Wisconsin, where our communities are located along I-43, where about 33% of visitor spending already is located, I think the sky's the limit relative to what potentially we can do in bringing people to the water for this kind of unique opportunity. Again, where you might have this being one of all of 15 underwater national parks in all of the United States, national marine sanctuaries right here off our shores, to be able to connect them to the water, but then, as you said, to realize, to capture that economic impact. I think there's just tremendous potential upside.
It's awesome. You know, and the other day, my wife was looking at some ads for real estate in our area, and it was interesting to note that the Lake Huron frontage, the marketing strategy had another extra little line on it, which said, "On the shores of the National Marine Sanctuary."
Right. A lot of power in that.
There's a lot of power in that statement.
Right.
So they're thinking of it as an added value, obviously.
Absolutely. Right.
And you know, if you want to get a place on the lake, you're gonna work at finding one in our area.
Right.
And that 5 years ago wasn't the case.
Right.
You could have bought multiple houses or multiple open lots. You can't do that now.
Well, in fact, when I was in Alpena, a number of the businesses along downtown on sort of the main street talked about how really the National Marine Sanctuary, and of course the presence there of the infrastructure, 100,000 folks coming to visit, was a big part of why they made it through the economic recession.
Exactly.
Having that kind of spending within your community, there's just enormous power in that. And again, I'm glad you brought that up. We talk about it here all the time. If you spend local, if you invest locally within your community, it is an investment because those dollars are staying within your community. So it's very exciting stuff. So last question, I guess, you've seen this, and I know one of the things that we hear from time to time is even if the process itself has been bottom up, you're still talking about the federal government, and the federal government's involved, and NOAA is a federal agency, which of course none of us dispute.
Right.
My experience is, and I share this with anyone who will listen, of course, is that the NOAA folks, the staff, leadership, etc., has been nothing but supportive. They've been very responsive, and of course they've allowed us to really take the lead on driving this process. From your standpoint, in terms of experientially with the folks from either Michigan, of course Ann Arbor, who are involved with NOAA, or out in Washington, D.C., what has your experience been in terms of the relationship building? And again, what's so unique about your perspective is you didn't start out necessarily from day one as a friend.
Right.
And you evolved.
Absolutely.
And so what has that relationship been like?
Well, I can summarize that pretty quick. You know, I don't think that there is a better tax dollar use than the sanctuaries program. Absolutely not. If you look at, we have I think I'd say 8 or 9 actual NOAA people, and maybe a total of 15 people employed on and off at our sanctuary. Okay, we have 300 volunteers putting in over 8,000 hours a year. Now that's a fact.
Yeah.
If you have that much community support, think of the expertise that we have, the effort that goes into this. We don't have a problem with volunteers or numbers of volunteers because that many people, not just myself, that many people believe in what's going on. So I have, like you say, gone to Washington, I've testified before Congress, I have written letters, and basically my theme now is I tell them, quit worrying about the sanctuaries program, spend your time trying to make other government programs emulate the sanctuaries program.
That's wonderful.
Because it is what government should be about. It is what we the people want to do with our community. And you know, as long as it makes good sense and it's environmentally sound reasoning and it protects people and we gain economically or just plain gain pleasure out of being there because of it, that's our business.
Quality of life, as you said before, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it certainly has been our experience, and I'm so glad you talked about how regardless of the number of NOAA staff that there might be, again, it's been the volunteers and the stakeholders that really drive this process. We were so proud to submit our proposal with over 120 letters of support. I mean, these are conversations you're having out in the community with people who right now today are stakeholders in one way or another, but to your point, Steve, may well be volunteers, may well be investors in your friends group, are going to be supporters carrying this effort forward, and that's going to require in terms of just long-term ownership.
That's what's going to make it successful. All these government people are going to do for you essentially is to help you coordinate what you already have here. And here's what happened in Alpena a few years back. We had some people that wanted to put a project together, and they use the sanctuary kind of now as a clearinghouse. And we wanted to create this maritime trail and make good use of it along the river.
Right.
Well, there was no one group that had more than a dime. So you get another group that has a dime, and you get another dime from maybe an entrepreneur or somebody that comes in and wants to contribute to your friends group or whatever it is. And then you put those dimes together and you write a grant and you double the dimes.
Yep.
And it happens.
Yep.
And then you put in the man hours, which count as another dime. Yep. The Optimist Club puts a bench along the parkway. Maybe that's their contribution.
Yep.
And maybe that's all they can do, but you know what?
Yeah. Excellent point, though. Yeah. Everybody doing something. And an excellent point, too, I think, in that sometimes I think people miss on, there's really not going to be resources that will flow directly from Washington, D.C. relative to investment in the community. And I always tell those folks, and you're a great shining example of that relative to what you just did, to say that it's not about federal resources. No. It's about what it does in terms of the branding within the community, the economic impact for our businesses. It's about us working together to really ensure that preservation and identification of those underwater treasures happens, and then that we all work together through grant processes and through other things as well to generate more of those funds within our community.
Right.
That's the impetus for it.
Right.
And I think it's going to be, like you said, a groundswell in terms of just not only the support it's going to produce here within the state, the tourism element that it's going to evolve to within our communities, the educational partnerships and the economic value for our students now and into the future. I think it's going to be a groundswell in terms of long-term sustainable impact for each one of our cities. So
but you get to say that. You get to make it happen.
That's right. We drive that.
You drive it. And if you don't let it die, it won't die.
That's right.
And it's as simple as that. And I have no problem with the grant process, because I think grant monies, in my mind, are procured for a reason, and every dollar is accounted for in that. That's different than just saying, okay, here's $10,000, time to do something with it.
It has to align with your mission. You have to make a case. In that case for support, you have to be able to demonstrate that obviously you're meeting your objectives.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's money well spent, and I think a lot more things ought to be done that way. Yeah. And so, I wish you guys the best of luck. And
so let me end with that. Any advice for us? Now, you're here as a friend, as you said. You're coming over, and I loved hearing you say that you wanted for us to be successful, because I will tell you, when I was in Alpena, to T, every conversation I had, people said, absolutely great sense of pride that we are, right now today, the Great Lakes National Marine Sanctuary. However, that said, we want you guys to be number 2. And so, with that, it was a sense of they wanted us to be successful, just as you said. So as we move forward here, and we wanted to have this conversation today with people to continue to evolve this discussion publicly so they know we're not done yet. We've made a lot of progress and we're close, but we need people to stay engaged. If you had a singular piece of advice for us, or a sense of guidance from your experience in being so successful there, what might that be?
My feeling is that you need to get and keep the doors open for everybody to come in and voice their concerns, whether they're positive or negative. But you can't let even the negative person walk out. You've got to say, let's sit down, let's figure this out. Let's figure out what's bugging you. Let's find out if it really is a problem. And if it is a problem, how can we solve it?
Sure.
And that's what will put your community together rather than drive people apart.
Sure.
And so that's the advice I have. The naysayers are just fine. They've got points that are either valid or are not valid, but they need to have the opportunity, and you need to take the time to listen, and you need to you need to make peace with that.
And not just into the designation process and the
No,
point of
no.
designation, but beyond.
Oh,
as you
beyond,
said.
yeah, you don't get better.
Right.
All say, if everybody says yes, you're not going to get any better.
Yeah.
No, somebody's going to have to say, no, let's go this other direction. And you're going to have to argue that. And through that, you'll either validate what you are doing, or you'll go that other direction, or somewhere in between. But that's what you're looking for, and that's what I'm looking for when I come over here. What's new, what's different?
Right.
What little tweak could we use over there?
Yeah.
I have some ideas, but some ideas I'm running out.
Sure.
Because I'm only looking as far as where I'm at. And you get other things by going other places.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well,
Mhm.
Steve, hey, thanks so much.
No problem.
Really appreciate you taking the time. And folks, again, thanks for being with us today and using this opportunity to learn a little bit more about our proposed Wisconsin Lake Michigan National Marine Sanctuary. Again, we're not done yet. We still have work to do. That work continues tonight, as Steve said, with the forum up in Sheboygan. But even outside of these formal forums, please know that at any point in time, within any of our 5 cities and our 3 counties, we, not only in terms of the folks who are in elected official positions, but also stakeholders within the communities, we want to hear from you. And so reach out, learn more about what we're trying to accomplish through the extraordinary opportunity that is this National Marine Sanctuary off our shores. And by all means, get engaged in the process, because as Steve alluded to in his great experience in Alpena, that engagement doesn't just start at the point of designation. That engagement is happening now. It's been going on for 3 years, and it will continue long beyond designation. That's the way we're going to make sure that our National Marine Sanctuary here in Wisconsin is as successful as the National Marine Sanctuary has been over in Alpena for Thunder Bay. So again, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. As always, you can find my contact information on our city website, personal cell phone or email address. Always happy to meet and talk with you. Thanks for being a part of this today, this conversation. We look forward to more conversations here in the future with you. Take care and have a wonderful September.